Chapter 1 Grown Up. Wow, he's back. He immediately made huge donations to the prominent art schools in the capital too. It's great being rich, isn't it? I've heard that he's our alumni, having graduated from the Southline University. That explains his generous donations. Plus, he's the richest man in the city after all. More importantly, he's so charming. Practically the whole nation's ideal man, rich, handsome, and down to earth. There's no one else like him in this world. The entirety of Southline University Art Institute was engrossed with news regarding Mark Tremont's return, except for Ariane Wynne, who stood out like a sore thumb. Seated at the stairway, she was munching on a stale bun which had long lost its warmth. Downing the otherwise hard-to-swallow baked good with just plain water felt equally as cold as the winter season. Mark Tremont. He's back again after 3 years. Ari, why are you eating buns again? Come on, I'll buy you a good meal. Tiffany Lane plopped herself down carelessly beside Ariane. The latter shook her head before she stuffed the rest of the bun into her mouth, picking up her bag and swinging it over her shoulder. Her action emphasized her frail frame. No time. I've got to go back. Tiffany sighed. All right. Don't bring any more buns tomorrow. I'll bring you breakfast. Tiffany's voice slowly drifted afar as Ariane paddled her bicycle, finally disappearing as it flew away with the wintry breeze. Returning home, Ariane carefully parked her battered bicycle to the corner and slipped in through the back door. She put down her bag swiftly, returning to the small clammy storeroom. Just when she was about to change, Mary came in a hurry. Ari, don't help me out today. Sir's looking for you. And be careful. Don't speak if you can, lest he is upset. Otherwise you'll be at the receiving end again. Ariane Wynne nodded and went upstairs cautiously. She patted down the washed-out jacket she wore, remembering that he disliked sloppiness. She subconsciously held her breath whilst knocking on the door. Her fingertips were trembling. She had grown a lot over the last 3 years, so she wondered how much would he have changed. Come in. A mellow voice soft like the winter sunlight spoke from within the room. If one did not pay attention, they perhaps may not realize the icy tone mixed in. Ariane's heart sank a little. Pushing the door open and entering, she left it ajar on purpose. The man was seated facing the French window with a magazine in his hands. The expensive tailor-made suit hugged his build perfectly, adding an exquisite wash of gray to the snow-white winter day. Even while seated, his long legs were evident. Occasionally, his fingers with distinct joints flipped the pages gracefully. His features, flawless as if they were painstakingly sculpted, seemed dreamy under the cast of light. Mark Tremont, he was back after all. You are turning 18 in another half of a month? His nonchalant tone bored a deep pit in Ariane's heart. Not receiving her response, Mark Tremont tossed the magazine onto the coffee table beside him and turned to look at her. His deep eyes were nothing but cold. Ariane stepped back instinctively, convinced that she was truly the only outlier of his compassion. Yes, frightened, like a deer caught in the headlights. Her face was pale without a tint of blood. Mark Tremont walked up to her. Each approaching step of his caused her to move back in fear. As both approached the door, Ariane almost tripped from the half-closed door. Mark was quick to step forward, closing the door with his arm as it brushed past Ariane's ear, trapping her in between. Are you afraid of me? His tone was taunting, seething with hate. Ariane Wynne dared not meet his eyes. He was much taller than her, so their close proximity could only allow her to stare straight at Mark's chest while his aura engulfed her. Chapter 2 Deeply rooted. Ariane was too scared to resist. This had happened countless times in the past. Sir, it's mealtime. Butler Henry's voice rang from outside the room, sounding like a savior that had just come from the heavens to rescue Ariane. Butler Henry had served the Tremonts for decades, and had watched Mark Tremont grow up. Thus Butler Henry carried some significance to the latter. I see, Mark Tremont replied casually. Ariane Wynne opened the door immediately, fleeing for her life. Mark's words still echoing in her mind. You're turning 18 in another half of a month? His question shattered the peace within her. She was well aware of what turning 18 meant. Mark Tremont left the house after the meal, giving Ariane a sense of relief as she drifted to sleep on the small bed in the storeroom. She had lived here in the storeroom for 10 years. To a certain extent, the Tremont estate was her second home. Her slumber tonight was not in repose. She asked her father repeatedly in her dream. What actually happened? Is what they told the truth? The only response she received was her father's smile, followed by the sight of his back before he boarded the plane. The crash killed all 17 passengers aboard the Tremont's private jet, including Mark Tremont's parents. The media extensively reported that the accident was due to the pilot's mistake. However, rumor has it that the pilot was drunk before flying the aircraft. Arian Wynn's father, Zachary Wynn, was the Tremont's private pilot. He was labeled the public enemy, even long after his death in the aviation crash. Toward the end of Arian's dream, she saw Mark Tremont taking her home. No one understood why he would take care of the sinner's daughter. 8-year-old Arian was brought into the Tremont estate while holding onto Mark Tremont's hand. Back then, Arian had naively thought as both of them were orphans, perhaps this was his sincere kindness. However, once the doors shut, her hand was flung away as Mark Tremont stared down at her icily. "Your father is dead. You shall repay for his sins." The hatred that enveloped 18-year-old Mark Tremont nearly devoured Arian. From that moment onward, she understood perfectly that he was not here to help her. When Arian woke up from her dream, the sun had already risen. Holding onto her feverish forehead, she watched the falling snowflakes outside through the tiny window in the storeroom. "It's snowing, huh?" she said with a faint smile. "Ari, bundle up. It's going to be cold today since it's snowing. Don't you catch a cold with that petite body of yours." Mary was concerned for her just as she had always been. Over these 10 years, no matter the season, Mary would always shower her with a few fond reminders once she woke up. Arian hummed her acknowledgement and put on her only coat to fight the cold weather. When Mary saw Arian as she was going out the door, she felt a twitch in her nose. "Ari, ask for some money from Sir, and buy some new clothes. You've had this for years. Girls like you should be spending at this age. Look at you." With a stubborn shake of her head, Arian rode her beaten bicycle against the frosty weather. Mark Tremont banned everyone from providing her with anything, money included. Any charity was to come from him, and only him. Ever since the age of 8, Arian would try her best to please him for anything that she wanted. He disallowed her to call him brother, so she had always called him Mark Tremont. The name stayed deeply rooted in her mind. The honk of a car beeped from behind Arian, prompting her to cycle as close to the curb as possible. When a black Rolls-Royce drove past her, she met eyes with Mark Tremont through the half-open car window. The exchange was brief, the car zooming past afterward. All of a sudden, the vehicle stopped in front of her. Subconsciously, Arian stopped as well, supporting herself with one leg on the road, while both of her hands rested on the bicycle handlebar. She waited quietly. Chapter 3. Who's that? 2 minutes later, Mark Tremont's car drove away. Arian released a breath that she was unaware of holding, wondering what he was doing when the car was stationary. "Sir, it's snowing. Are you really not letting Miss in the car? Should we wait a bit more? Or shall I call her?" The driver, Brian Pierce, was rather worried. "Busybody." Mark Tremont looked at the delicate silhouette from the rearview mirror, feeling inexplicably annoyed. He waited for 2 minutes, and had given her the chance. When Arian arrived at school, Tiffany Lane was baffled by her soaked state. "What do you think you're doing? Did you cycle here in the snow? Are you crazy? Come on, breakfast is still warm. Eat up quickly." Arian accepted the milk and bun that Tiffany passed her with a smile. A dash of red appeared from her cracked lips. Tiffany sucked in a deep breath. "Do your parents not care about you? They don't worry about your meals or clothes and aren't concerned about you attending art school. Did they pick you up from the streets?" "My mother remarried when I was very young, and my father passed away 10 years ago. It's not their fault," Arian replied as she took off her soaked coat and sipped the warm milk. The indifferent tone in her voice, along with her actions, was a pang to one's heart. Tiffany then fondly rubbed Arian's wet hair. "Why didn't you tell me earlier? We've known each other since high school, and yet, you never told me anything before you finally spoke up today. It's absurd how your mother could bear abandoning a pretty little girl like you. Who are you living with now then? Who are you living with?" Arian did not answer immediately, as she thought about how she should refer to Mark Tremont. Her elder brother? My elder brother. That was all she could say. Tiffany Lane was quite perplexed. Your elder brother? Your biological brother? Even if he's only your cousin, he shouldn't let you live so pitifully. Have you bought the paint the tutor asked us to buy? Arian shook her head. I won't be able to buy it for the time being, but I'll think of something. 3 years ago, she was guileless but not gullible. That was her first time rejecting Mark Tremont. His icy tone spread from his lips. One day you'll beg me. After that, He left the country without a warning, and she had never asked him for another favor or another meal in the Tremont estate, surviving only by working part-time jobs. She was unable to fulfill his request nor please him. But there was no need to anymore. Looking at Ariane's frowning face, Tiffany's heart ached for her. When she was about to say something, a warm masculine voice interrupted. "Tiffany, what's up with your cutie pie today? Why does she look so listless?" It was Will Savon who spoke, the other person whom Ariane knew on campus. There were only so many of the rich and powerful in the capital. Both Tiffany Lane and Will Sion were among them, though not Ariane Wynn. "It's the paint." "Tiffany." Ariane cut her off and discreetly shook her head. For some reason, she did not want Will to know about her plight. Out of the blue, Will Sivan's hand touched her forehead. "You have a fever. If you fall sick, our Tiffany here is going to nag all day long again." It sounded like he was complaining, but Will's hands were already working to take off his scarf to wrap around Ariane's neck. She looked up at him, her heart beating a little faster. His smile felt like the sunlight that spilled from a blanket of clouds, gentle and natural. Loose hair fell from his forehead, draping down to his starry eyes which looked like they contained all the stars of the universe. Will Savon was one of the best-looking people Ariane had ever met, only second to Mark Tremont. When they had met 10 years ago, Mark Tremont had taken her breath away too. "Who's that?" Mark Tremont's gaze was locked on Ariane Wynn and Will Savon, who were beside her from the corridor outside of the art studio. Chapter 4. "Come to my room tonight." The dean beside him grinned. "Mr. Tremont, are you referring to Will Savon? You've probably heard of him, one of the 3 young masters of the Savon family. He's in his junior year now. The 3 of them are usually together. Next time, I don't want to see him again at Southline University. No, in the whole capital," Mark Tremont said emotionlessly as he turned to leave. A few steps later he halted. "And I'll fully sponsor Ariane Wynn anonymously." The dean bowed his head quickly. Of course. Have a good day." After classes, Ariane Wynn dragged her lethargic self as she pushed her bicycle to the campus gate, standing to wait for Will Savon to return his scarf. "Ari, are you waiting for Will? He went home at noon. He said he has some family matters." Tiffany Lane walked to her and took out a small bag from her purse. "Here you go, cold medicine. He asked me to give you this. Medication for fevers is also inside. Remember to take it." Ariane looked at the bag of medicine, but did not accept it. "I don't need them. Return the scarf for me. I'll head home now." Now that Mark Tremont was back, she had to be home on time every day. Tiffany thrust the small bag towards Ariane. "What are you being stubborn about? Even I know that he likes you. You wouldn't have noticed, would you?" A blush crept onto Ariane's pale cheeks. "Stop with your nonsense. Bye." Having taken less than 2 steps ahead, Mark Tremont's car sped over suddenly, skidding to a stop less than a meter away from Ariane. Tiffany was about to lash out, but Ariane's hand flew to cover her mouth. It's okay. You can go back first." Ariane could already see the brooding face of Mark Tremont, who was seated behind the car's windshield. Mark had no patience for her. A honk was all it took for Ariane to hastily park her bicycle to the side, hopped into the car, and pulled the door shut. Tiffany Lane was dumbfounded. She wanted to say something, but the car had driven off. Sitting in the car, Ariane's head hung low, not daring to speak. This was the first time Mark Tremont had picked her up from school, yet she felt no element of surprise. She was only flooded in fright. "Gotten yourself a boyfriend?" Mark Tremont casually questioned. Ariane thought of Will Savon and shook her head nervously. "No." At the same time, she tightened her grip on the bag of cold medicine in her hands. "Will Savon won't be making an appearance anymore." Mark Tremont looked at her with a smirk in his eyes. Ariane looked up, shocked when she met his eyes. "What do you mean?" Her response upset the man. "Other than redeeming your sin, there's nothing else you have to do in this lifetime of yours, including falling in love, marriage, or giving birth. Understand?" The chilling tone sent Ariane into a freezing abyss. She suddenly felt a slight hatred for the man before her. Why must he take everything that she liked away? Soon enough the car returned to the Tremont estate. Upon exiting the vehicle, Mark Tremont's eyes darkened when he saw the bag Ariane was clutching in her hands. "Stand right there." Ariane froze. The bag of medicine in her grasp was snatched away in the next second and thrown on the road. Her shoulders slumped as she quietly made her way to the back door. No one remembers when it was since Mark Tremont had disallowed her from entering through the front door. He forbade her because she would bump into him, and stated that she could make an appearance only when he wanted to see her. "Come to my room tonight," Mark Tremont ordered and walked briskly through the front door. The scowl on his face even intimidated the group of bodyguards. Regardless, Mary and butler Henry still approached him. "You're back, sir." Mark gave a light hum of acknowledgement. He stopped again when he was at the staircase. "Ariane Wen is to have her meals at home morning and night from now on." Was he implying that he had been torturing her with how feeble she currently looked? Housekeeper Mary smiled. "Yes, sir. I'll make sure that Miss eats well." While Ariane Wen cleaned the kitchen with Mary at night, Mary held her cold hands sympathetically. "That's enough. Rest early. Stop helping me. Look at your cracked hands. Ari, sir is actually quite nice to you. Stop resisting him. Don't you understand him still? Obey him, and everything will be fine. I've watched him grow up. He's not a bad person." Ariane did not say anything, merely continuing what she was doing, mopping the floor repeatedly. Her entirety refused to see Mark Tremont. The Tremont estate was huge, though Mary did not have a lot of work. Her tasks were bound to be completed with time. The clock ticked past 11 when Ariane built up the courage to go upstairs and knocked carefully on the door. There was no sound or movement from the other side, and she wanted to turn and leave. Upon a moment of hesitation, she opened the door and entered, fully aware of the consequence if she did not listen. She made her way softly into the pitch-black room. "Are you asleep?" The man's voice came from behind her the next second. "Did I ask you to come at midnight?" Jumping with a shudder, Ariane felt around for the light switch, but something had caused her to trip. With a cry, she fell face first to the floor. Chapter 5. Wait for me. A pair of arms surrounded her suddenly and pulled her back. Ariane could almost feel the dampness from his fresh shower and smelt the fragrance of body wash. Her hands supported herself on his chest. Unknowingly they were shaking. The arms that were wrapped around her waist let go abruptly. "Get lost." For some reason, his voice was a little raspy. Ariane had no idea how she had upset him again, so she scurried off at once. It was when she returned to the storeroom that she had regrets. She had forgotten to ask him about Will Savan. Recalling what happened just now, however, the courage to seek him again slipped away from her. When morning came the next day, Mary came into the storeroom with a glass of water. "Come on, Ari. Here's some cold medicine." Ariane Wen was puzzled. Mary did not know she caught a cold. Furthermore, how would Mary dare give her medication without Mark Tremont's permission? As if dismissing Ariane's doubt, Mary sat down on the edge of her bed with a smile. "Sir has gone on a business trip, and will only be back in about a month." This was his instructions before he left. "Here you go." Ariane could not point a finger to the feeling in her heart, but she felt inexplicably lighter hearing that he would temporarily not be around. After taking the medication, Ariane briskly made her bed and went to school. When she entered the studio, the dean personally came to pass her all the material she had lacked. "Miss Wen, check if there's anything else you're missing." Ariane was taken aback. "No, nothing is missing. This is..." The dean did not explain, merely saying, "That's good then." As the dean left, Ariane was lost in her thoughts, staring at the items she had received. Mark Tremont was surely not the source, since he would not have the time, nor the effort to be concerned about her situation at school. "Ari, I've heard that someone sponsored you anonymously. I didn't expect the administration to work so quickly. Your paints are all better than mine." Tiffany Lane rummaged through the materials that the dean had sent over once she was here. Ariane kept quiet as she arranged her new belongings. "Hey, who was the one that picked you up yesterday? Crazy driving, almost killed you there." Tiffany was a chatterbox, always spouting new topics whether Ariane replied to her or not. "That's my brother," Ariane answered. There was a slight pause from Tiffany. "What sort of brother is he? He's so rich, yet here you are being groomed into a slum girl. Let me meet him next time." Ariane smiled. "Don't criticize him. He's actually very nice. He's not my biological brother, so it isn't his obligation to take care of me. He's done more than his part." That was what she told herself too. She was a sinner, but Mark Tremont had given her shelter and taken care of her for 10 years. Tiffany pouted before beginning to guess the mystery sponsor in excitement. "Who do you think is funding you?" "Well, Sivan's dad has kicked him out of the country, and he won't be coming back until a few years. Do you think it's him? Someone has sponsored you right after his departure." Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. Stunned, Ariane found it more convincing that the sponsor was Will than Mark Tremont. Thinking about the man who was like a gentle ray of sunshine, she felt her heart clench. While Sivan's departure was her fault during Mark Tremont's absence, Ariane Wynn was a lot more relaxed. Tiffany had dragged her for a fun day out on her birthday, which was on the weekend. The former knew that she disliked crowds, thus she did not invite anyone else. Before they went home, like a magic trick, Tiffany produced 2 small gift boxes. These are presents from Will and I. Ariane did not accept them. She could not afford to return them anything of similar value. A look at the gift boxes was evident that the presents were costly. She was poor. That said, she had seen enough during her years in the Tremont estate to know. Thank you for spending the day with me. There's no need for presents. Ariane breathed in deeply. It was the scent of the chilling breeze and snow. Tiffany pushed the boxes into her hands. When I am nice to you, I don't expect anything in return. But Will is the opposite case. Stand up straight. I'm gonna complete what he's asked me to do. Unable to figure out what she was about to do, Ariane straightened up obediently. Tiffany looked at Ariane in all seriousness. Ari, I'm Will Sivan. I like you. Wait for my return. You've got to wait for me. Chapter 6. Hand in Hand. With you I shall grow old. There was a fleeting moment when Ariane saw Will's shadow behind Tiffany. The 3 of them knew each other so well that Tiffany Lane had his tone and expression down impeccably. Ariane's heart skipped a beat. Her lips parted open, not sure of how to reply. Tiffany waved at her with a grin. All right, my mission is done. Whatever you have to say, tell Will yourself. Take care on your way home. See you tomorrow. She got into her car and left afterward, leaving Ariane stunned on the spot for a long time. What Tiffany had said just now kept replaying in her mind when Ariane arrived at the Tremont estate. It had already passed 8 o'clock at night. She carefully opened the gift box to see that Tiffany had bought her a necklace, while Will had given her a bracelet. In Will's gift box there was a note which wrote, Hand in hand. With you I shall grow old. Blushing, Ariane hid the gifts in a cardboard box under her bed. Mark Tremont would never agree to the presence of such things, so she dared not wear them out. All of a sudden Mary's voice came from behind. Are you back? Let me make you a birthday meal. Ariane picked herself up immediately. Mama Mary, there's no need to. I've eaten already. Please rest early tonight. Mary was hesitant to speak as she rubbed her cool hands together. Ari, Sir has rushed back during the middle of his business trip to celebrate your birthday. Most likely, that is. I saw that he even brought home a present, but he didn't look happy when he saw that you weren't home. Why are you back at this time? Sir hasn't even had dinner. Ariane's breath was stuck in her throat. A wave of panic flashed across her pale face. Mark Tremont forbade her from spending free time outside. She had accepted Tiffany's invitation because she thought that he would not return so suddenly. What triggered her warning siren was Mary's interpretation. How was it possible that Mark Tremont had come back specifically to celebrate her birthday? A present was basically impossible. Seeing that she was frightened, Mary held her hand. Don't be afraid, Sir won't bite you. I'll prepare his meal. You send it up to him. It's your birthday today. Be sweet with your words. He won't make things difficult for you. Ariane nodded. When Mary was done with the meal preparation, she carefully carried it upstairs, freeing a hand to knock at the room door. Are you there? There was no reply. Ariane had long grown accustomed to this. Mark Tremont was a man of few words, so it was not uncommon for him to ignore people when he was not in a good mood. Gritting her teeth, Ariane pushed the door open only to be shocked. Mark Tremont was smoking, seated in front of the French window. The room was blanketed in a thin layer of smoke, making one wonder how much he had puffed. She recalled that he rarely smoked surrounded by the smoke. He did not look real. He had not even changed, still clad in his tailor suit, while his hair was neat without a single strand out of place. Containing herself to stay calm, Ariane put down the dinner and made her way to open the window on the side for better ventilation. Where have you been? Mark Tremont asked without warning. Frozen, the icy wind that came rushing straight through Ariane's heart. My friend asked me to hang out. I didn't know that you came back. Her voice was soft, drowned by the chilly wind that gushed in through the window. Ariane was not sure if he heard her clearly. Apparently, his sense of hearing was excellent. Didn't know that I came back? So you mean you can do whatever you want if I'm not here? Ariane felt ice cold, so piercing cold that she closed the window. No. I've made a mistake. I won't do it again. She did not explain any further, nor did she wish to mention that it was her 18th birthday today. No matter the situation, she would just apologize for her fault as long as he was unhappy. Mark Tremont let out a light scoff, wearing a smirk as he stubbed out his cigarette and poured himself a glass of liquor. He had just taken a sip when Ariane timidly reminded him, "Drink after you eat." Mark Tremont looked at the glass in his hand and walked up to her. "It's your birthday today." Looking at the liquor he extended, Ariane dared not take it. She did not know how to drink, and it was his glass. He was a clean freak. She would be outrageously bold to touch it, not to mention drink from it. "I don't know how to drink." With an upset frown, Mark Tremont pinched Ariane's chin abruptly and poured a good flow of liquor into her mouth. Ariane's throat burned at once, making her cough incessantly. Before she could recover from the harsh cough, she was suddenly pulled into Mark's embrace. Chapter 7. Give me a hand. Ariane Wen's eyes widened in trepidation. It was only then that she realized that before she came, he had consumed a fair amount of liquor. The small sip just now could not sum up to the scent of alcohol waiting from him right now. Mark Tremont's kiss was commanding and predatory, swallowing Ariane's breath bit by bit. When she was about to struggle for air, he finally pulled away. "The dinner is getting cold," Ariane cried out in panic. Mark Tremont was a different person when he was drunk, compared to when he was sober. When he drank, he gradually let his true self out. But while sober, he was everyone's gentleman. Ariane was well aware of this. She was terrified and trembling, while the message Will Savon entrusted to Tiffany Lane kept looping in her mind. "I like you. Wait for my return. You've got to wait for me." Mark Tremont pushed her down onto the large bed behind her. 2 more hours. What a waste to spend it on dinner. He was facing away from the light. Ariane was unable to discern his expression. She dared not look straight into his face, a face that countless women lusted over. She could vaguely feel his rage. She caught his hand. "Don't be like this." Her tone was pleading. Yet little did she know that a damsel in distress was the easiest way to spark a man's desire. Mark Tremont's hand moved to her face as he caressed her features. "But your eyes were tempting me. They have always been tempting me. Why do you stare at me if you don't want it?" His tone was alluring with a slight rasp. Ariane's reply was tinged with a sob. "Mark Tremont. I'm on my period." His eyes darkened. Ariane held her breath. Before she came upstairs, she had prepared herself. This loophole was foolproof as long as he did not check with his own eyes. However, what killed her hope was that Mark Tremont did not let her go despite her announcement. Instead, the grazing on her neck that felt slightly raw put her on edge. She dared not resist him anymore, knowing that his patience had always been limited. "Give me a hand," he said as if ordering her. Ariane stiffened up. She wanted to retract her hand, but he had caught it in a death grip. The alcohol in her system alleviated much of her psychological discomfort, rendering her mildly inebriated, now not aware of what she was doing. The concept of time had escaped her. Mark Tremont came down from above her and went into the bathroom before he quickly got out of the door. Waking up in the next morning, Ariane Wynn was dumbstruck to see that she had slept on Mark Tremont's bed last night. She had entered his room countless times throughout the years in the Tremont estate, but she had never slept in his room. Recalling last night's incident, a blush crept up her cheeks as she was dressing, despite her crushing headache. Other than the very last step, they had done everything last night. Even when she had been expecting this, she still felt a heavy weight on her chest. The dinner she had carried up yesterday was left untouched on the coffee table. Ariane took it downstairs to see an unusually cheery Mary taking the food tray from her, while joyously giving her a toasted sandwich. "Eat up, I know that you like this. Sir's been really nice to you. He rushed back to celebrate your birthday, even if it was only for a few hours. You have no idea how hasty he was when he left." Ariane Wynn gave no reply, but in her mind she grumbled to herself. "Ugh, must have been difficult for Mark Tremont to make time and do that to her when he has such a tight schedule." Before she headed out, Mary hung her hand-knitted scarf on her. "In case others see your neck." Chapter 8. Someone who left you with the strongest impression. Ariane's hand flew up to her neck, wearing a frown. She vaguely remembered that Mark Tremont had kissed her there. He must have left a mark. Unlike Ariane's flustered state, Mary was delighted. "Ari, just be with Sir if he really likes you. You'll have your favorite buttered bread for life, and he's good-looking too." I don't think there's anything you'd disapprove of, seeming you've spent 10 years with him after all. Ariane shied away from discussing the topic as she cut Mary off. Mama Mary, I'm gonna be late for class. Bye. She fled out of the door as if she was running for her life. Become Mark Tremont's other half? If she was bored to death, sure. When Ariane got to school, Tiffany Lane scooted to her and toyed with her scarf. Babe, what unique taste you've got there. Why does it feel so 70s? But Ari always looks the best anyway. You look good. Maybe even better if you wore a janitor's uniform. Especially with your eyes, take a look at them. Ah, you're so captivating. Her eyes, Mark Tremont mentioned them last night as well. Ariane shuddered at the thought. Stop joking. Suddenly, someone's mobile phone rang. Both Tiffany and Ariane looked at each other. Tiffany shrugged. It's not mine. That's not my ringtone. Ariane perked her ears up, realizing that the ringtone seemed to have come from her bag. Taking off her backpack to check, a newest release model of a certain mobile phone brand was buzzing in a frenzy. She was quite bewildered. Retrieving the phone, the incoming caller displayed that it was Mark Tremont. When did he put the phone into her bag? He had even saved his number on it. Ariane took a glance at Tiffany awkwardly and answered the call. Hello. Mark Tremont's melodious voice, which lacked warmth, came from the other end. I've transferred you some money. I don't want to see you looking like you've been maltreated the next time I return. It spoils my appetite. Spoils his appetite? He didn't really mean his actual appetite by that, did he? The phone call ended shortly, and her mobile phone displayed a money transfer notification. Ariane frantically turned off the phone and dropped it back into her bag, afraid of revealing what just happened. When she came into contact with the bank card in her bag, her hand shook. Why did it feel like an exchange for what happened last night? It was off-putting. Your brother gave this to you? This model costs around $1,500. Looks like he isn't the worst to you, Tiffany commented. Ariane nodded. Let's go. Class is about to start. Luck was perhaps not on her side today. When they entered the studio, the tutor was not in a good mood as she instructed directly. Today we are drawing someone who left you with the strongest impression. Feel free. You can refer to photos. There are no restrictions. Tiffany Lane was hyped as she stared at Ariane in anticipation. The latter was embarrassed. What are you doing? You've been asked to draw someone who gave you a deep impression. With a chuckle, Tiffany answered. That's you. From the moment I saw you, you've left a mark in my life. How perfect of a person you are. If you were to pursue the entertainment business, other celebrities will just turn lackluster. Except you keep too much to yourself and you're too thin. Ariane did not say anything as she mulled over who had left her with the strongest impression. Her parents. Her memory of their faces had long faded with time. Once Mark Tremont popped up in her mind, Butler Henry and Mary's face vanished. She genuinely opposed the idea of drawing Mark Tremont. She did not have his photo either. In spite of it, his face was clear as day in her mind even without a reference. Each of his actions was etched deep in her memory. Ariane Wynn, what are you doing? You're being sponsored and here you are being lazy. Snap out of it. You're supposed to be drawing. The tutor called Ariane out with a rap on the drawing board. Breaking out of her trance, Ariane forced herself to pick up her pencil. She wanted to draw Mary. After all, Mary treated her the best aside from her parents. As she drew, however, the person on her drawing board had actually transformed into Mark Tremont. Unable to leave her mind. Chapter 9 Mark Tremont is back. When they submitted the assignment, the tutor wore a deriding smirk looking at her drawing. You drew Mark Tremont, huh? You usually act reserved. But now it seems that you're just like most girls. A few of them drew him as well, but yours is the best. You have a photo. Share it. The tutor was a woman nearing her 30s. Unmarried, ill-tempered, and infatuated with Mark Tremont. She babbled about him with the other students every day. Ariane Wynn shook her head. I don't have a photo. The tutor's face fell. But you drew him so well? All based on imagination? Have you met him in person? Be a good sport, show me the photo. Your drawing, it looks like he's just sitting around at home? The internet doesn't have photos like this. Where did you get it from? Tiffany Lane could no longer hold herself back. What's the fuss now? She said that she's got no photo, that's it. Her drawing skills have always been great. Don't you know your own students? Faced against students of significant family backgrounds and power like Tiffany Lane, the tutor would always think twice before acting. All right. I know she's under your wing. I don't want no photo, okay? How did you do it? You've never met Mark Tremont, have you? I've seen him once in a banquet. I thought that you were different from the others. I see that you fantasize about the nation's ideal man too, hee. Tiffany asked Ariane after class. Habitually quiet, Ariane had no fantasy for Mark Tremont. What could she be imagining when they stayed under the same roof every day? She could draw him perfectly, because that was how deeply rooted he was in her mind. She could probably never escape from the dread that he brought to her entire life. Ari, I heard that Mark Tremont is coming to our campus event this year. It's not strange though. He's contributed a lot to the school. It's reasonable that the school invites him. Tiffany spoke, having long been accustomed to Ariane's reticence. The campus event was held every semester before the campus preceded winter and summer breaks. It was nothing but some boring programs and a talk the school arranged. There were 21 more days until the campus event. Mark Tremont would already be back from his business trip then. Ari, we don't have any classes in the afternoon. Let's hang out. I'll take you ice skating. There's a new ice skating rink. The ski field is too far away. I'll take you there during the holidays. Tiffany quickly suggested when she saw that Ariane was packing her things, looking like she was about to leave. There was a frown between Ariane's brows. She was worried about Mark Tremont coming home out of the blue again. If she was caught not home once more, she did not think that she would be forgiven so easily. What do you say? Let's go, let's go. Tiffany swung her arm in a cutesy manner. Ariane shook her head helplessly. Can't go, I need to go home. Tiffany clung to her arm stubbornly. Why are you hurrying home every day? Is your family that strict? Is your brother going to bite you? Ariane made a hum. Mark Tremont would actually swallow her whole. Tiffany Lane was speechless, incredibly curious about her brother. Witnessing how serious Ariane was, however, she could only let go of her arm and let her leave, not wanting to put her in a dilemma. Leaving the campus, Ariane's bicycle chain popped off suddenly, before she even made it halfway through her journey. She did not know how to fix it, only able to plod on and push the bicycle. Heavy snow fell again. Her hands, which were not taken care of, were already cracked from the cold, while her cheeks were flushed red from the icy gale. The sky had darkened when Ariane arrived home. The nightfall enveloped the Tremont estate's lavish outline, yet was unable to conceal its magnificence. Mark Tremont cherished peace and quiet, so the location was fairly far from the Southline University. However, without a bike to ride, Ariane had suffered. Entering the door, Mary hauled her into the nanny's room and warmed her up by switching on the heater. What's up with you? Why are you back so late and freezing cold too? If you find it hard to talk to Sir, I'll go on your behalf. You don't even have any thicker clothes. Ariane rubbed her hands that were numb from the cold together and replied faintly, He's given me money. I didn't spend it. She would have felt wrongly to have spent that money. Mary poked her forehead grudgingly. He's given you money, you refuse to use it. What are you being stubborn about? So many years have passed since that incident. Sir isn't treating you badly. Why are you the one dwelling instead? Sir's back today, and you're back so late again. He'll surely be after you. Mark Tremont's back. Chapter 10. Sleep upstairs. Ariane had pins and needles at once. Was he no longer on a business trip? Why was he suddenly back? Fear emerged from within. In hindsight, luckily she did not go ice skating with Tiffany. She was only unfortunate that her bicycle chain popped off heading to the bathroom. Ariane felt uneasy when she showered, knowing that he would surely look for her. She caught a lean shadow on the couch from the corner of her eyes when she came out of the bathroom and passed by the living room. He was wearing light gray loungewear, looking more casual than in his usual full suit attire, as it made him look less icy. Except his eyes were still distant when he looked up at Ariane. Come over here. Letting her head hang down, Ariane moved to stand straight beside him. You're back. Cold? He had wanted to question why she was home late, but his query became one singular word when he saw the cracked wound on her hand. Slightly dumbfounded, Ariane dared not look at him. It's fine. Mark Tremont picked up the steaming black tea on the coffee table and passed it to her without much thought. There was no change in his expression. Don't come home so late next time. Ariane did not take the tea. This was the first time Mark Tremont was not unhappy about her coming home late, and he did not even ask for an explanation. Mark Tremont's eyes shifted up to her again. All it took was his cold gaze for her to accept the tea and gulp it down. The black tea was not scalding hot, but the tip of Ariane's tongue felt tender for chugging the liquid. It was only when she had finished drinking that she belatedly realized that it was his cup she had drunk from. I'll clean it for you." Before he said anything, Ariane scurried off to the kitchen holding the cup that was still warm to the touch. Mark Tremont's gaze darkened a little, while his appealing thin lips pressed into a displeased line. Was she really this scared of him? When the cup was carefully rinsed for the umpteenth time, Mary closed the tap and teased. "Ari, what are you doing? The cup's gonna peel from your washing." Snapping out of her daze, Ariane held the cup with caution. "Nothing. I'll send it to him now." "Go along quickly," Mary urged. Ariane did not feel brave enough to actually go. Mark Tremont would certainly not use a cup she had used, but he did not say that he did not want it back. She was apprehensive about catching sight of the repulsion in his eyes again. A slight frown formed between Mark Tremont's brows when he watched the girl who took her sweet time exiting the kitchen. The fitting white sweater Ariane wore hugged her thin form perfectly. Had she never eaten a full meal before? Presenting herself in front of him, Mark Tremont heard her quivering soft voice ask, Do you want tea? Should I change the cup?" His strong skeletal hand grabbed the cup from her hands and poured himself a cup of black tea. Their hands formed a stark contrast. One was fair and smooth while another had seen better days. "In the future, get Henry to send you to school. Don't embarrass the Tremonts." Ariane was yet to feel warm and fuzzy from the first half of Mark Tremont's words. Then a bucket of ice-cold water soaked her thoroughly with his final words. She thought she knew him well enough and had already come mentally prepared. Yet he was only worried about her being a disgrace. "You're blocking the light," Mark Tremont stated abruptly as he looked down at his magazine. Ariane looked up at the lamp that was above their heads. How could she be blocking the light? Pondering, she thought that he must have meant that she was an offense to his eyes. She turned to leave quietly, but was stopped by his words. "I didn't ask you to leave." She turned around once more and sat down on the couch, placing her as far away as possible from Mark Tremont, as she saw him picking up the cup of tea and taking a sip. There was nothing unnatural about his expression. He was actually fine with the fact that she had just used his cup. The scene last night in his room replayed itself in Ariane's mind again, and she felt her cheeks heating up. Sleep in the upstairs room from tonight onward. He had no idea what she was thinking about. Chapter 11 Caught. Ariane froze. "I'm fine sleeping in the storeroom." Mark Tremont glanced at her. A wave of disapproval swept in his cold eyes. "I'm not asking you to sleep in my room upstairs. Mary will help you prepare the guest room next to me." Having been exposed of her wrong assumption, Ariane felt rather awkward. Thereafter, one of the maids had served their dinner in the dining room. "Sir, miss, it's mealtime." Mark Tremont closed the magazine he was holding and stood up. "Eat." He had asked her to eat together. How long has it been since she ate with him at the same table? She did not remember. Ariane, with her head lowered at the dining table, ate without making a single sound. She helped herself only to dishes that were closest to her. Mark Tremont ate slowly, making close to no sound as well. Their manner only served to emphasize the silence of the wide dining room. Butler Henry, who stood beside the table, sighed and picked up some dishes for Ariane with the serving spoon. "Don't only eat vegetables. You're growing." "Thank you," Ariane replied softly. As they had their meal, Ariane ate however much Butler Henry served her. Not used to eating so much in one sitting, her stomach ached slightly. Mary has finished cleaning up the room when they finished their meal. "Ari, take a look at the storeroom. See if there's anything that I haven't tidied up. I've moved most of your things upstairs." Ariane caught a glimpse of Mark Tremont, who just seated in the living room, then acknowledged Mary with a guilty conscience. When he returned to his room, she stealthily sneaked to the storeroom and retrieved her gifts in the cardboard box under the bed. As she went upstairs, careful not to make any sound, the door next to her room opened right as she arrived. Meeting eyes, Ariane looked like a deer caught in the headlights as her eyes widened and her lashes trembling. She subconsciously hid what she held in her hands behind her back. "What's that? Hand it over." Mark Tremont looked down at her and commanded, like a mischievous child who had done wrong. Her resistance had only lasted for 2 seconds under his hot gaze before she extended her arm. "Go to sleep," Mark Tremont said immediately after opening one of the gift boxes and glimpsing. She knew that he would not return them to her, and she dared not fight back for them. She had expected this since receiving the gifts. This outcome was not a surprise. Entering her room and closing the door, Ariane huffed a long sigh. However, remembering Will Sivan's note in the gift box, she slowly squatted down. She was doomed like most parents. Mark Tremont prohibited her from dating at an early age. Despite this fact, she was past the legal age, and he was not her parent. Guardian if you must. Mark Tremont thought of throwing the gifts away immediately. He had done so the past 10 years. However, this time, he did not act upon it instantly. He tossed them on the coffee table. The more he looked at them, the more he felt annoyed at the sight. Swiftly he opened the gift box. His face fell immediately at the note inside. Hand in hand, with you I shall grow old. At the same time, Ariane Wynn, who was laying in the big soft bed, found herself unable to fall asleep. Used to the tiny stiff bed in the storeroom, it felt foreign. Her heart was burdened with anxiety as well, pondering when Mark Tremont would be after her. Her mobile phone beeped the moment when that thought crossed her mind. It was the phone given by Mark Tremont, so it only had his number. Ariane wanted to feign negligent, but she took a look at the mobile phone, and his dark face popped into her mind. It was a text message, short and simple with only 2 words. Come over. Feeling her heart sink, Ariane draped her only jacket over herself and trudged to his room, knocking only after a long hesitation. His void tone sounded from the inside. Come in. Mark Tremont was habitually seated on the chair in front of the French window when Ariane entered. He had a cigarette perched between his fingers. Usually, this meant that he was not in a jolly mood. Ariane dared not approach close to him, opting to stand some distance away. Come over, he spoke again, his tone colder. The words were a repetition of his text message, but when they came from him verbally, it frightened her more than the text. Ariane Wynn braced herself as she walked to stand beside him, still too timid to make a sound. Suddenly, he pulled her to himself, causing Ariane to drop and sit on his legs. Chapter 12. Throw it. This occurred frequently when Ariane was younger, yet she did not remember since when she began to feel awkward about it. Being so close to Mark Tremont, she caught a whiff of the faint tobacco emanating off him, and the smell of alcohol. He drank again. Well, Sivan is gone. Who is it this time? Hand in hand, with you I shall grow old. Tell me, who is it? Mark Tremont's voice was chillingly bewitching. Ariane Wynn was too scared to answer. He had already ushered Will Sivan overseas. If she were to admit that the gift came from him, what sort of fate would befall upon him? She dared not think about it. I don't know. Don't know. Why were you hiding it so carefully if you didn't know? Ari, you're misbehaving. Mark Tremont's hand seemed to be casually resting on Ariane's waist, which he then subtly pressed into her when he spoke. Ariane Wynn was high-strung, not knowing when she might crumble. I really don't know. Mark Tremont stopped pursuing, as he buried his head at her neck and sniffed the light fragrance on her. You know the consequences if there's a next time. He did not let her leave, his thin supple lips softly rubbing against Ariane's neck and shoulder. A million thoughts raced through Ariane's head. To her, intimacy like this could only be conducted with someone you like. He hated her, yet why was he still like this? Nevertheless, Ariane stayed frozen and submissive to his every action, as she did not dare push him away. Just as she thought that Mark Tremont would do something else, he pushed her away out of the blue, panting harshly like he was holding back. Ariane looked at him in confusion. To be exact, she was cautiously waiting for his next course of action. However, Mark Tremont only picked up the gift box and passed it to her, announcing icily, "Throw it." Ariane frowned. Did he want her to throw it out with her own hands? Do I have to repeat myself? Mark Tremont glowered, the dissatisfaction in his eyes near a tipping point. Without the courage to hesitate, Ariane Wynn hastily took the gift and threw it into the bin. When she looked back and in a flash of stupor, she was caught off guard by the faint smile on the corners of his lips. Of course, it was thanks to Mark Tremont that Ariane Wynn woke up late the next day, even though he did not particularly do anything to her other than the intimate move that confused her. Butler Henry was waiting for Ariane by the door. Miss, I'll send you to school. Sir has thrown away your bicycle. Ariane did not comment on the matter. Her bike was near its end anyway, it had served its time. Reaching a stretch of road that was nearby the campus, Ariane asked Butler Henry to stop the car. Uncle Henry here's good enough. It's only a few 100 meters away. I'll walk over. Butler Henry parked to the side. Be careful then. Call me when you're dismissed. I'll pick you up. Ariane thought for a moment, Then wait for me here when school dismisses. Don't drive to the campus gate. She did not want anyone to know about her relationship with Mark Tremont. It would dishonor him. When she arrived at the gate, Tiffany Lane was waiting for her as usual. Why are you so late today? Woke up late, Ariane answered simply. Tiffany hooked her arm around Ariane, as she had always done, and led the way. What a rare occasion for you to have woken up late. I'm late too, waiting for you. Just as Ariane Wynn was about to speak, she felt a pang in her stomach. Seeing that Ariane did not look well, Tiffany pulled close to her and asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Ariane shook her head. "You sure? Want to check it out at the infirmary?" "No, we're already late. Let's hurry up." Ariane waved her hand in dismissal, and quickly made their way to the studio, pulling Tiffany along. When they arrived, she was already covered in sweat from the pain. The tutor gave her a side eye. "Late when you know there's class, huh? Stand there for now." Chapter 13, A Personal Encounter. Ariane Wynn kept quiet, turning to lean against the wall of the corridor, as she struggled with her stomach ache. Tiffany Lane was disgruntled, but she was not one to make an unreasonable fuss when she was at fault. She stood beside Ariane and gazed afar at the dorm building currently under construction, saying, "Do you know that the dorm over there is sponsored by Mark Tremont? It's quite extravagant. He's really rich. In comparison, our families are basically nothing. Ari, I heard that he's coming to visit the campus today." There was no reply from Ariane. Her gastric was giving her hell. Then the tutor walked out pompously. "The two of you are really something, huh? I've penalized you, yet you're in the mood to chat? Take out your drawing boards, complete your drawing in the corridor. See if you can submit the assignment by dismissal." With a tipped chin, Tiffany Lane marched into the classroom for her drawing board, while Ariane Wynn stood paralyzed. Her vision was already blurry. Anger boiled further when the tutor noticed her sickly state. She gave her a shove. "I'm asking you to take your drawing board. Are you deaf?" The shove caused Ariane to fall on the floor without warning. When Tiffany came out and saw the scene, she shouted at once, "What did you push her for?" Guilty, the tutor fought back weakly. "I only gave her a light push. Who'd know?" Tiffany bent down to help Ariane up, while she continued to yell at the tutor. "You're doomed, I tell you. This is corporal punishment. You're not fit to be an educator." The tutor felt wronged. Is she made of paper? Is it even possible for someone to collapse with a light touch? Tiffany Lane, don't simply make accusations just because you have nothing better to do. Ariane Wynn, you can stop acting too. Who are you putting on a show for? The heated dissension in the corridor stood out like a sore thumb. Both the tutor and Tiffany Lane were still caught in an argument when they were seen by the group of people who just turned around the corridor. The dean who led the entourage was deeply dismayed. He had long sent the memo that Mark Tremont was coming today, and nothing must go wrong. Mark Tremont looked indifferent when his gaze lingered on Ariane Wynn, but his eyes turned dark when his gaze shifted to the tutor. "Stop fighting. I'm fine. Tiff, help me with the drawing board," Ariane Wynn said feebly. Tiffany Lane swallowed her wrath and marched back to the classroom again. Still vexed, the tutor gave Ariane another shove. "A delicate frail flower, aren't you? Show me that you'll fall again." Her push this time was much stronger than the last. Ariane could not speak from agonizing pain. Her vision was dimming to black as she struggled to keep herself up. The next second, however, a strong arm took her embrace. Her stamina fizzled out as the person's familiar scent filled her senses. "Mark Tremont," she mumbled. His clenched jaw and furious face appeared in her blurry sight. Before she could ask why he was here, Ariane's vision turned pitch black before she lost consciousness and fell. Seeing the man who appeared out of nowhere, and intimidated by his chilling aura, the tutor paled. The man did not speak, leaving after picking up the girl from the floor. His expression was terrifyingly sullen, while the wrath contained in his eyes felt like it would erupt at any time. The dean who came after him was ashen-faced, glaring at the tutor in exasperation. "All you do is cause me troubles." All Tiffany saw when she came out was the man disappearing from the corner of the corridor carrying Ariane Wynn, the dean hurrying along his way, and denounced the tutor. Realizing what had happened, Tiffany shoved the tutor as well. "Just you wait." After that, she quickly chased after them. Mark Tremont sat on the bench outside of the hospital emergency ward with his head slightly hung. The vibe he exuded felt like an iceberg. It was solitary and incredibly freezing. The dean and Tiffany Lane were beside him, pacing back and forth anxiously. Suddenly, Mark Tremont spoke up. Southline University's tutors are pretty unique.